The bike has been sitting for about 4 days since we did the test ride, and I decided to take a look at how much oil is in the sump of the engine. Normally, there's supposed to be maybe 4 to 6 ounces of oil left over down there. This looks like more than that, so I'm going to take this drain pan now and put it into a measuring device and measure how much oil was in the sump. All right, here's the what I dumped out so far. This is 16 ounces of oil over here, and there's still some over here. So I'm going to dump this into this second drain pan. Nice clean oil. And see if I can do this one-handed to dump the rest of this into here. Okay, there's another 16 ounces. All right, let's and I'm going to call that approximately another 7 or 8 ounces there. So 16, 16, 32 plus 8, 40 ounces of oil in the sump. That's bad. That's a bad thing. What happens is Norton's and BSA's both use rotary oil pumps. Rotary. Triumph uses plungers. Triumphs are no problem. The oil cannot drain down from the oil tank into the sump through a Triumph oil pump unless there's crud in there holding one of the release balls, check balls open, and I've only seen it once in all my years. So Triumphs are pretty good about keeping the oil in the oil tank rather than down in the bottom of the motor. BSAs are pretty good because BSAs have a check ball valve in them also. So I very seldom ever see excessive oil in the sump of BSAs. Norton's, on the other hand, up until 1975, have this problem where the oil will drain down out of the tank, right down into the engine, go through the rotary pump and into the sump when they sit idle. And when you go to start them, it makes it hard to start because you're trying to pump oil with the crankshaft as you try to kickstart it. And then they've actually had hydraulic lock, which causes internal damage to the motor. And then sometimes when the bike starts, it pukes oil all over the ground because it's trying to pump that out up into here, comes out, goes on the ground, and you have a nice big puddle of oil underneath your Norton, and you wonder, well, what happened? Okay, in 1975, Norton installed a check valve right about here. If you look on a, matter of fact, I'll show you. If you look on this timing cover, see this dimple right here? That dimple is the check valve that keeps the oil from draining down from the tank into the motor when the bike sits idle. Okay, now a very clever company in Tucson called AMR, I think it means Alternative Motorcycle Repair, in Tucson, Arizona, has come up with a method of you ship your timing cover to them. They install a valve down here just like the 1975s, and that keeps the oil in the oil tank rather than in the bottom of your motor. I'm going to suggest strongly to my client here that I do this modification. You take this off, you ship it to them, they ship it back, you reinstall it. Takes about an hour to take it off, pack it up and shift it. Takes about an hour to put it back together, set the timing with a strobe light, and it costs about $150, I think, or so for the modification itself. So yeah, it's expensive. It runs, close to $300 or more just to have that in with the labor involved. Doing your own labor, then it's just the cost of the modification. So for information on them, Google AMR Tucson, and they'll show you all the interesting things they do for Norton's, one of which is the check valve installation here, of which I am highly appreciative. I've put them on probably a dozen or more bikes over the years, and they're foolproof. By the way, the check valve in the line that you can buy, they work, but they also sometimes don't work. And when they don't work, they cut off the oil to the engine, and I had one bike come back. I didn't install it, but he'd installed it. And it had stuck closed and starved the engine, and the engine exploded like a hand grenade. Nobody that I know of uses the inline check valves anymore. I'll show you something funny though. On my Norton, let's see if I can get down here and show you. I actually had one installed. See, there it is. That's the inline check valve. Once I started working on bikes and heard the horror stories, I gutted that. It's just this piece of tubing now. I did that one day with the intention of replacing the whole oil line and never did. So it's been in there for like 10 or more years, or even probably more than that. But it's empty. So that's an inline check valve that is no longer operational. And I had the AMR mod done to my timing cover long time ago. And so I never end up with oil in the bottom of my sump. So that's what I'm going to suggest. Having all that oil in the bottom of the sump is not a good thing. So that's where we are.